Hello, this is Master Sergeant Salisbury. Today we're going to cover Pathfinder Office and bringing data into the software, correlating it, and exporting it as a shape file. So what we have right now is Pathfinder Office is already turned on, and we are currently in the default screen you arrive at when you first initialize the application. So I've got the icon right here. We've activated the session, so let's dive right in. The first thing you're going to do, if you're not currently working on the established project that first defaults in, is you're going to create a new project. So we'll call this Sample 1. By default, it's going to go to your Documents folder. You can pick another location for the Sample 1 folder to be generated. It's good to be consistent, that way all your projects are in the same location. We will leave it in the documents for this presentation. 3 folders will be automatically created: Backup, Export, and Base. Backup stores the information that you bring over from the data transfer. If you export anything to a shape file or some other format, it will go in here. And Base file stores the bases that you select for the correction process. After you've named your project and you've verified the location in which you're going to have it stored, you go ahead and click OK. Okay? It's saying, hey, this is what we're planning to do, and you say OK again for it to generate the project. Okay? As you can see here up on the top left, Sample 1 is now the current project. I can swap over to one of the previous ones I've already created, or I can just leave it as is. In this case, we'll leave it as is since we're currently working in this project. The first thing we're going to do is transfer the data from our Geo7X to Pathfinder Office. The way we're going to do it in this presentation is we have an SD card that we have gone to this computer. We found our SD card, and we have our files. So these are the ones that should have come over from the Geo7X. GIW, OBS, GIP, GIS, GIX, OBX, DD, GIC. Those are the files required to make an SSF file. Once you verify that those exist, we're going to copy them out. There we are. Copy. Okay. Now we're going to navigate to our Documents folder. This is where we've created that new project called Sample 1. I'm going to open Sample 1. I'm going to create a new folder called Raw Data. And then today's date, 5/24/2023. That way you can keep your data segmented by date. After you've created the folder, getting a little delay here, open it up and paste in that information from your SD card. Okay? Now that you have your data in a folder that you've created inside of your project, you are now ready to do the data transfer utility. Okay? That is the second button down on the left. If you hover, you'll see the words Data Transfer. When I click the Data Transfer utility, it shows me the available devices that I've already registered or have been defaulted to the system. Unless you are working with an existing project, you're going to have to create a new device, in this case a folder that you can attach to get the data to transfer over. So let's go into Devices. You need to know the name of the device, because if you don't, then you won't be able to select it. So we're not using anything existing because we just created a new folder to act as our device transfer. So the first step after hitting Devices is going to be clicking on the New button. Here it asks you what type of device you're connecting to. We're not connecting to any real device in this case. We are connecting to a GIS folder, a folder in which we've placed GIS information. Bam. Okay. It's saying, hey, this is the folder you want to connect to. You actually want to go a step further and go into your raw data folder. It might still find it if you keep it at the project level, but it's better to be explicit and go right into that raw data folder that you've made. Go ahead and hit next. What type of data? You're going to hit TerraSync. You can leave it as the default version 3, 4, and 5, and then hit next. It's asking for a name for this device. I would like to say GIS Data Logger, and then say Sample 1. That way you know it's for this particular project. Finish. Okay. You have now created this device in the registry. Hit close. And by default, it's going to add that device as your current one. If it doesn't, you can hit this drop down and look for the device you just added. Okay. The next step is the request to add data from that device, or that folder in this case. You hit add. As you can see up here, we get a green check mark saying that the software sees that folder and sees GIS information. This is the GIS information it sees. Go ahead and click open. It stays at this prompt to see if you want to add additional information from other sources. In this case, we do not. Since we have all of our data selected, we hit transfer all. Do you want to overwrite the file users local stem SSF? You say yes. One file successfully transferred. Now we'll go back to our folder explorer. This is just for visualization so you can see where the information is stored. We'll go to Documents, Sample 1, Backup. And as you can see, an SSF file has been created with the same name as the project that we were running. Okay. We have now done the data transfer. We can now click Close. Now that we have our data, we can open that SSF file inside the backup. Since we already have our map viewer showing, that data is now present, and we can double click it to see the metadata within each of those points or lines. 2043, 2044, manhole 001. Okay. After you've visually verified that the map data matches the project that you were working on, we now go to the second phase, which is correcting that data. By hitting the core file, or the differential correction file button, that will bring up your differential correction wizard. It automatically loads the SSF we're currently looking at. It has options to add additional SSFs if you wanted to process multiple from the same project. In this case, we're only doing the one. So we'll go ahead and click Next. Use multiple base providers and automatic carrier encode processing is what should be our default. If not, make those adjustments. Let's see, we'll look at these files, corrected only, use smart lock, recorrect auto times. Those are all good. So the default normally would be acceptable. Base provider group, you can select one that you've already had made from other projects, or you can create a new one from scratch. In this case, these three seem acceptable for our project, so we'll click OK. If you were not going to run with this one, you would click New, name it, and then you would add base providers. You want to sort by distance. You also want to update the list. That'll take a couple seconds, but that's necessary so you have the best options available to you. Seems it's gone and hidden behind the actual application. So you want to hit the top three. Normally you'd see something in the integrity index showing the quality of those sources. But in this case, you would do the top three for the sample. In the real world, you want to do about 5. We'll do 3 just for this scenario. Okay. You can see yourself where you conducted the project with the green X, and the dot locations there are the 3 different base stations that we're connected to. Okay. And use positions from base station list, confirm data. All that's good as defaulted. use project folder, create unique file name. Also good as defaulted. We'll go ahead and start up our correction. What it's going and doing right now is it's going to those individual base providers via the internet and downloading their GIS information for the same time in which you conducted your project. Okay. It asked for confirmation for it to get started, and we gave it confirmation by saying confirm. It's now doing its process, so it's processing those data. It corrected 268 positions and failed to correct 75. Just waiting for this to finish processing. Okay, this is the differential correction summary at the end here. It tells you how many points were corrected. It tells you your final accuracy after that correction was made. It looks like a majority of our stuff is within 30 centimeters, so it's within foot accuracy or 6-inch accuracy. That's more than good enough for the projects that we do. Most of our digging and stuff like that is within a foot. Okay. Now we close. So what has happened now is we have taken our SSF from the data transfer and we have corrected it with the differential correction. I'll go back to the folder structure so you can see. Oh, there it is right there. The corrected GIS information does not go into a folder. It goes into the root of the project. So right under sample 1, now we have our core file. Now we'll go to the last and final step, which is export. Okay. When you click the export, it's automatically going to load that last corrected file that you have. It's going to ask you where do you want to output whatever you export to. In this case, putting it in the export folder in sample 1. There are multiple options for how we export. Generally, for EAs, we only do 2 options. We output to AutoCAD DXFs with blocks, or for CVC input, we output to ESRI Shape files. Before we export to an ESRI Shape file, we need to go to our properties. Go to our coordinate system and make sure that we have a projection file listed. If you do not have a projection file for this system, it will not properly create a shape file. If you do not have one presently, you need to browse and go and copy over the master.prj from your EA dongle, your thumb drive, and put it into an available folder so you can attach it here. Our coordinate systems will put it in XYZ. Most of these other factors are not major players, and you can leave defaulted for making shape files. If you were producing an AutoCAD DXF, you'd have to spend some time here deciding what features you wanted to have shown. Okay? With the shape file selected and the projection file linked, you are now ready to hit OK. We have now created a shape file. Because that was an export function, we will go into our export folder to find the shape file. So this text file here tells us, hey, you exported a shape file, this location, and used this corrected file. This is the information that it has produced that is required for your shape file to work. So when you're uploading all of this data to CVC, you will need all of this available. So if you're going to be using CVC on this laptop, then you can just point to sample 1 export when you go to add it in. If not, then this needs to either be emailed or copied to a disk so it can be transferred to a network computer. We'll cover that in the next course. Have a good one.